Hey guys, Nick here. Welcome to the Omniverse of Nick and the finale to What If the Walking Dead Was a Dream. Before we get started, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick, and check out the About tab and homepage so you don't miss anything for the Omniverse's future. With all that said, let's begin. So, we open up where we ended off last time. The group is finally going to engage Negan at the first satellite outpost. And they pretty much massacre everybody there with all the communities. By the way, I forgot to mention that. They go to all the communities. Wow. They are dealing with the wolves and leading them to the junkyard and everything. I showed the picture, but I forgot to put the audio in the video, which, yes, I could have corrected, but I feel it's just better that I explain it here. Plus, the second to last part and this part, the penultimate, whatever you want to call it, short anyway. It's just because there's a lot to unfold with it being a redo of the story in a different way. Anyways, they massacre everybody there, regardless if they had all the communities or not. Tara, Lily, and Megan are there. And because Tara as a savior has Lily and Megan to think about, and not just like Lily or herself or Megan and herself, and she's not by herself, she asks, "You can take me, but please spare them." But Rick knows Tara, and he knows that even if he doesn't know Megan or Lily, he knows that they all mean well. They never, especially with the governor and everything, from whenever he saw that, he decides to spare all of them. And it's for the right reasons, and it actually works out. Then they go to the other satellite outposts, and Aaron gets Gracie, and Michonne is there as a savior. And when they find her in the forest, she begs for her life. And Rick just hesitates. He sees the Michonne that he knew and he loves. Then he sees the Michonne that just looks dark, disturbing, far different than the person he knew before. And Michonne, this was a trick. Michonne strikes with her sword and slices Rick's arm clean off. And Rick, infuriated, in pain, and dizzy, and beginning to break down and cry, knows that if there's any diverge or something that needs done in this second way of his story, he has to do it. And he just mercilessly tears Michonne apart and kills her. Then he breaks down, utterly sobbing, and just, he didn't want to do this to Michonne. And he can't handle it. He wanted her to join with them, but she wouldn't. It had to come to this. But he still has Carl. He still has Lori. He still has Judith. And he still has Shane. Still has Herschel. Everybody else is alive besides Michonne and like very few others that have died here and there, especially like the no names and everything. And Lori and Rick are pretty freaking close still. Meanwhile, Tomas is revealed to be the shadow figure. I mean, if those of you who couldn't have guessed it by this point, like, come on now. Tomas is the actual second in command replacing Simon. And at this point, this long, and figuring out that their savior, a satellite outpost, and the brigade, and just everyone is dying because of this unknown, humongous rallying of communities and groups, Simon is beginning to get very irritated, especially at Tomas. So Negan proposes something. Tomas and Simon fight for second in command. And Tomas utterly slaughters Simon, mercilessly tearing him apart, torturing him, and just, it's brutal. And Negan puts him in line with Lucille and says, you step out of line like he was beginning to, you'll join him on the ground. But they all end up on the ground eventually. Because Rick and everybody else, it's far too much for Negan and the Saviors, especially all the communities. And with this, however, so many people alive, and Rick and Shane and so many other huge leaders working together, Michonne or not, Negan cannot handle this. Soon enough, the Whisperers become a thing, and this, I can see the Pike scene. You know how I usually have, like, if Alpha dies, or, like, if more Whisperers die and Alpha's still around, that the Pike scene is, like, it's huger? I'm gonna say that actually is huger, but to say the victims, entirely unnecessary. I am just going to leave it to you guys. It could be Morales and his family, T-Dog, Jesse. It's really up for debate, and it honestly would not change the end result of this story, which you're about to see. Anyways, Alpha and the Whisperers die regardless. The Reapers show up, they're dealt with. The CRM and the Commonwealth show up, they're dealt with, but they're not. Because this point in the story, so close to the end, is when I can see in this timeline Shane finally turning on Rick. Because of everything Rick did in the story, you'd be like, why would Shane turn on him? Well, because that whole loving Lori thing, Andrea could only hold it down so long. And yes, I've held that back before, especially in the Exile Shane things, but that was because the story centered around Shane, you know? This one don't. It does, but it doesn't. So I could see this being the point where Shane turns on Rick and becomes a CRM soldier. And Rick gets a prosthetic arm, just like he did in canon. And I can see Shane being the final boss here. And this would either end one of two ways. Number one, Rick makes it through, even with Michonne being lost, and it's pretty much a freaking happily ever after. Yes, there were diverges he didn't know about, but the world would be theirs. And Rick seeing the future pretty much would make him in this story omniscient and one of the greatest human beings to ever live. And he technically already is. Or number two, the bad ending, Shane wins, and it would be just like what if Shane killed Rick, except far later, far darker, and in a far different way. And that's a wrap. Now I know I kind of sped run through a lot of this, especially when I got to the biggest moments with Negan, the Whisperers, and all that. And this could have just stuck to a talking what if and not a plethora of people surviving, bunch of story that was needlessly not even worth putting in. I'd already gotten onto this and reworked it multiple times, but I wanted to show this to you guys because, yeah, people have talked about this, and before anyone says anything, no, I'm not going to do the same idea with how I did it with Dale and his survival, because that story was amazing just the way it was, and it was only for the ending that the dream sequence was basically a Family Guy moment, if you will. You know, you know. I explain it at the end of the story. And I'm not going to do the what if Goku was reborn with all of his memories, because that concept is just stupid. Because we know the answer. He would just be too freaking overpowered. He would literally kill everybody. And this had already been a speculated and thought to be idea that they close this as the finale and Rick waking up in that hospital. But I decided to take that concept and turn it into a what if idea, because I feel like it deserved to see the light of day. Excuse me. it deserved to see the light of day. And overall, I think I did a pretty freaking good job with it. You got to see Tomas actually get more sunshine in the terms of him being a savior. Rick Grimes killing freaking Michonne, even though it pretty much happened in a hallucination whenever she was a savior. And ironically, I made it actually come to life here, and I'm going to be doing a full What If Michonne Was the Savior actual story version of what happened in that hallucination. And Shane became a freaking CRM soldier and fought against Rick at the very end and finally turned on him, which I feel is a great way to close the story. And it just goes to show that just because Rick dreamt it all doesn't mean he saw a good amount coming. You can have as many people survive, you can change as many things, you can reroute, you can redetermine, you can reprioritize. But some things, if Dragon Ball has taught us anything, some things you can't escape, and some things are just too dang unavoidable to happen if you set a certain amount of things to happen a certain way. And Shane turning on Rick was bound to happen, one way or the other. Whether he killed him, turned good, was exiled, it's all rerouted towards one thing. Shane will always turn on Rick. And I think that is a great way to close, just going to show, just because he dreamt it all, it could either end super freaking easy, which was the vast majority of the what if, or would just be his greatest downfall when his best friend would kill him as a CRM leader, not just a soldier. But I hope you guys enjoyed this story nonetheless, even if I read through parts and maybe didn't put as much story into what the prospect had. But I think the surprises and the overall concept and the idea of it speaks for itself, in the manner that The Walking Dead being a dream, it just speaks for itself in the terms of Rick Grimes just knowing enough. The story is almost a complete win. And whether or not you guys want to interpret Shane killing him as a CRM leader, it's up to you. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys for Perfect Cell Max.